Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Dave Crescente, and I'm going to be your MC for the next couple of days. So thank you so much for coming. Can we start with a huge round of applause for Tim, Joe, and the rest of the team for organising this conference? Yeah. And also, let's applaud you guys for coming on along to Canberra if you've come from afar, or for coming across the bridge if you live in Canberra. Let's start with an applause for you guys. Yeah. So welcome to the conference, AuScope's 2025 conference. Very, very excited to have you guys here. As I mentioned before, my name is Dave Crescente. I run events, MC conferences and the like. And yeah, it is lovely to be in a room full of people who love science, who love, new discoveries, and who love rocks. It's very, very, very exciting. When I do host these events, sometimes people ask whether I have a science degree. The answer is no. I have worked a lot in media and comms for different science and health organizations, and the benefit of not having a science degree means that I can experiment on people without needing ethics approval. We do have some brave souls in the room, potentially. I've seen one of them. We do have a science comedy show later this evening. If you can work out who they are through the day, good on you. It's a bit like Where's Wally, but the scientist version. So we'll hear from them later today, right at the end of today, which I'm very excited about. So let's do some housekeeping very, very, very quickly. Now, as you are aware, we're in a spaceship-like round building. So this is it working? Maybe? 3, 2, 1? No? Here we go? No? All right, cool. I'll figure it out. Yeah, there we go. Now it's working. We're in a round building, which is cool. We've got some exits over here. Over there, we got the toilets, ladies sort of this direction, men's sort of in that direction. So in the case of emergency, please go to those two areas. Now, in terms of water, we can have water in this room, but we're forbidden from having food. So if anybody has food, I'm not sure what will happen, but maybe the alarm will go off. Just bear in mind, no food in this beautiful, beautiful building. And also, I should mention that if you have any... Oh, no. Maybe I need to be really close. I reckon... Yeah, there we go. Yeah, if you have any concerns, there's a couple of people that you can grab. So, we're hoping that you'll have a rewarding and positive experience at the conference. And if you experience any behaviour that is inconsistent with the culture of AuScope's AuScope's culture or code of conduct, please reach out to. We have Rebecca in the room. Maybe there she is. We have Ben in the room. There is Ben, and we have Nicole in the room at the front desk. Yeah, so if you need anything, grab them. They will help you out in case something isn't going to plan. Now, about this conference, very, very excited to have you guys here. So I just want to flag that the event purpose for today and for tomorrow is to provide a space for collaboration and to start a conversation about translation. I can hear the applause and the excitement and the cheers inside your heads right now. Yeah, let's give a round of applause for you guys for coming out, for spending your resources to come here and to engage in a 2-day dialogue on that. Again, let's start with a round of applause for you guys. Very, very excited. And without further ado, let's introduce the head honcho at AuScope, the one, the only Tim Rawling, who's going to tell us a bit more about today and do a acknowledgement of country. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Dave. I'm going to use these ones, I think. How's that? Thank you all very much for coming and welcome to AuScope 2025, the first research conference we've done in many years. Some of you will remember we had a meeting similar to this in Adelaide, but we were really looking much more at strategy then. But this is the first time I think we've got everyone in a room together to see each other, not on a Zoom screen, in a very long time. So thank you all for coming. We had organised a welcome to country this morning, but unfortunately the gentleman who was going to do it is unwell, so I'd like to do an acknowledgement from my point of view. So we acknowledge the Ngunnawal and the Ngambri people as the traditional custodians of the unceded lands that we're meeting on today. We recognise other people or families with connection to these lands. Indigenous people were not only the first custodians, but they were the first to observe this environment, to create knowledge from observations, and to use that knowledge for the benefit of their society and the environment. I'd like to acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and connection with the earth, sea, waterways, and skies for tens of thousands of years. And I'd also like to acknowledge and welcome other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be attending the event today. Okay. So it was suggested that I should give a talk about why we're here and a little bit about what AuScope is. And I'm sure there are many of you in the audience that are thinking, what is AuScope and why am I here? I really hope none of you are thinking that. I really hope all of you know exactly why you're here and what AuScope is, but I'm going to tell you what I think the answer to those questions are. So AuScope, as you know, is a national research infrastructure for the solid earth sciences. We're here to enable research, so we build the research infrastructure that allows you and your colleagues and people, strangers, people you don't even know, to be able to do research in Australia for the benefit of all Australians, particularly in the geoscience space. The reason that we wanted to get you all together is we wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the research that you're doing and the research that you're enabling. And every time we create that opportunity, whether it's through our all-hands meetings that we have every quarter or so, or if it's through events like this, the feedback we always get is that something new's come from it. I've met somebody that I hadn't met before, I've had a conversation, and we've been able to spin up some new idea. So the first reason I think you're here is so that we can enable those conversations, and hopefully you can just meet a few other people within the AuScope community. The next reason we're here is given away in our funding body's name. So you can see in the bottom corner of our slide, we're funded by NCRIS, which is the National Collaborative Research Infrastructure Scheme or Strategy, federal funding through the Department of Education. And the key word in that is collaboration. So as I said, we want you to meet people, but we also want you to start to collaborate. So we think that some of the most impressive projects that have come out of the work that we've enabled have been those that have been strong collaborations amongst the AuScope community. And Dave alluded to it before, the other thing that we want to start a conversation about is translation. So it's a word that I know is challenging. It's a word that to a certain extent is forced upon us by our funders, but we want to help you understand what we mean by translation. We want to see if we can work out what the government means by translation, and help all of us to improve the way we translate. And all we're really trying to do is help you take one more step on that pathway for your research or the research that you're supporting to have an impact for Australians. So if currently what you're doing is producing a paper and you're publishing that paper, we just want to help you take one more step along that pathway of helping other people find that paper, helping other people understand it and use it, and take the data that you're delivering and do something more with it. Many of you will have seen this slide that I've got up here before. We've been building a downward-looking telescope for many, many years. So the image over on the top right is our downward-looking telescope. We do a lot of things within AuScope. We have geophysics instruments that we deploy. We have geochemistry laboratories that we build and support. We have characterisation laboratories, so we understand the composition and nature of rocks. We have drones that we fly around to image the Earth and to image our coasts. We have modelling capabilities that allow us to understand and add value to our data. And we manage our data and make it discoverable and available and fair and care principle compliant. These are all amazing. We'll hear stories about many of those things that we do today. But they're hard to describe. They're like a whole sort of glad bag of different things that we do. And we had a board meeting yesterday, and Richard Hillis, who's sitting up the back, who's one of our departing board members, and I were talking about how hard it is to tell that story. So we do really need to lean into this downward-looking telescope concept. We need to be able to build awe and wonder in people when they think about geoscience and they think about AuScope. You know, it's hard to sell research infrastructure as the really exciting thing. You know, I use that term a lot, but it's not very awe-inspiring. But the downward-looking telescope is, right? And the reason we sort of came up with that concept is because we had a little bit of research infrastructure envy of our astronomy peers who have their square kilometre array. And they were able to tell a story about that, how they had these distributed instruments that look up in the sky and they tell us about the evolution of the universe. But we have this distributed set of equipment right across the country. We have a 10 million square kilometre array that looks down into the Earth, it looks through deep time, it looks deep, deep underneath us, and it looks at the planet that has allowed us to evolve, for society to evolve, for us to have civilization and for us to prosper and enjoy the lives that we enjoy. So there is awe and wonder in that, and there's a great story to tell. Oops, excuse me. My iPad's gone to sleep. We're also a collaboration, we're a collective. We have like 25 different partner organisations now, which are universities, CSIRO, Geoscience Australia, CRCs, museums, increasingly museums. We have this really broad collection of people and partners. We support nearly 100 positions around Australia through AuScope. So we have this huge community that we can engage. And we also have significant and growing international collaborations. So there are people from ANZIC in the room who we support, and they will be talking tomorrow. I think Sarah's talking tomorrow morning about the IODP and ICDP collaborations that we provide Australian researchers with access to. We also have new growing collaborations with the European Plate Observing System, with AuScope, and with Earth Science New Zealand. We're trying to build a global research infrastructure for solid earth sciences. We see enormous opportunity for all of you to be involved in that as it develops. So again, this is a space to try to grow those collaborations, to meet new people, and to try to find some people from all of these different organisations while we're here today, or as many as you can, and meet some of them and throw some ideas around and see if any new projects or proposals can come out of those conversations. We're going to hear a lot of talks over the next couple of days about how we have collaborated for impact. And so the sorts of impacts that those collaborations can create. One of them that we're hearing about tomorrow morning is the CRCP project between ANU, University of Adelaide and H2X, looking for natural hydrogen in South Australia. They're the sorts of, again, collaborations and conversations we hope to inspire. You'll also hear some talks from people involved with our Coast RI projects, and one in particular, Steve Micklethwaite's group from UQ, who are working with partners in Vanuatu to understand coastal impacts of sea level rise and earthquake activity and things like that. We also want to think about how we translate for impact. So how do we take a research project and deliver impact for society or for government or for other researchers who are outside of our research groups? There's thousands of examples from AuScope of how we translate for impact. Some that you've probably heard us talk about many times before are the development of the Geodesy group at GA through AuScope investment, the investment in the VLBI telescopes at Hobart, Yarragadee and Katherine. We'll be hearing a talk about those tomorrow. And how they have enabled high precision location within Australia, but were originally built as a research project looking at stress build-up within the Australian crust. The use of passive seismic data collected here at ANU and at other places, how that's delivered with other data sets from Geoscience Australia, and how it enabled the discovery of the Julimar polymetallic mineral deposit in Western Australia. We'll hear talks today about the NVCL, the National Virtual Core Library, and how that has enabled Australians to store data about our drill core and reduce our impact on the environment by reducing drilling. And you'll also hear talks about how we translate for young people to inspire them in geoscience, and Seema will talk later about that. My timekeeper's standing up on me already. I reckon I've got 3 more minutes. So the last slide for me is to talk about some changes that are happening. The first change that's a really important one, and I can't believe that it's taken us this long to change it, is we put a little line in our new logo so that Tasmania now exists in our logo. So all the Tasmanians here, I hope that you're relieved to see that. I was actually berated at a conference recently by a Tasmanian who took offence at the fact that we didn't have that. So you'll have to start updating your logos if you have them on anything, and hopefully you can use the new one. We've also got some changes to our HQ, to our AuScope team. So we say farewell to Richard Hillis, who has been a board member for many years. Richard's sitting up the back. And we also say farewell to Tanya Down, who's been our business manager for many, many years as well. So between them, I think they have 36 years of AuScope under their belts. And it's going to be a big loss to lose both of them. But we also get to say hello to some new people. So Caroline Tiddy and Anya Redding have both joined our board. Both of them are going to be involved in the program today at different points. Nicole Thompson has started as our new CFO. And Seema Musavi, who many of you know, is still running our AUSIS program, but is also now our National Outreach Manager. So we're very excited with these new additions. So that's all I had to say. I'm now going to hand over to our keynote. So I'm going to hand over to Dave first, and he's going to introduce our keynotes. But I hope you enjoy the 2 days. I hope you get something out of it. And please talk to us and tell us what you need and tell us what we can help you with, because we're here to hear from you as well. Thank you very much.
How good. Oh, there we go. I love the downward-looking telescope. Telescope names are so fun. The next speaker we have, or our very first speaker, he has quite the bio, very, very, very impressive. So we have Professor Bradley Moggridge. He's a proud Kamilaroi man from northwestern New South Wales. He's living on Ngunnawal country and is currently the Professor of Science and the Associate Dean of Indigenous Leadership and Engagement at the University of Technology, Sydney. Previously, he was an Associate Professor in Indigenous Water Science at the University of Canberra, and in 2023 he was conferred with a PhD in Science. He was appointed by IPCC as lead author for Assessment Report 7, WG1, Chapter 10, and is a board member with the New South Wales EPA and Biodiversity Council. He's over 25 years in Indigenous engagement, water and environmental sciences, and with qualifications in science, hydrology, and environmental science. So he's a fellow of the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering, and he's also a governor at my old workplace, WWF Australia. He was appointed through ANZIC and IODP as an Indigenous mentor on the JR Academy Fighter Flight 402 T voyage, Naples to Amsterdam, a two-way science learning experience for Indigenous university students from around the world. Without further ado, please welcome Professor Brad Moggridge.
I'm a hydrogeologist, don't put me with those surface water people. Hang on. Need to... Still be this click. Okay. Hey everyone, how are we going? Ready for a big couple of days? Looking forward to it, yeah. Yeah, look, I just always start with an acknowledgement, and I have a photo that has my descendants that have passed away, and that's my son getting smoked. He was quite tasty after that. No. Smoking is a key part of, takes away bad spirits, but also cleanses you ready for the day. So it's just imagine you're being smoked in the dome. Acknowledge none of all country and the respective countries. If there's people on Zoom, if you're sitting on a computer, acknowledge the country you're sitting on. I'm Kamilaroi, and that's, you can sort of see a big chunk of Kamilaroi of the eastern seaboard there, and there's a couple of old photos, and my son and daughter there at Boober Lagoon, which is one of our important water holes, dreaming place, ceremonial place. So water has been a key part of who I am and what I do. My son's 21, he's a ranger now, just over at West Belconnen on the Murrumbidgee, and my daughter's just finished year 12, and she can't wait to get out of Canberra to go to uni somewhere other than Canberra. I don't know what that says. It might have been the 12 degrees on Monday that she experienced. What I'll do is I'll try and some of our knowledge systems, country, and potential collaborations with geoscience. Some of my experiences briefly, the JR Academy 402T, value of country. Country is a collective term for land, water, and sky. Our knowledge, two-way science, potentials, and some principles, some cheat notes for you to think about projects. So this is my nickname in 1991, Metal Mag Mog. I love heavy metal, and I was I used to do a lot of the magnetics for exploration geology. That was my licence in WA, and that was me at well 23 on the Canning stock route. I did have hair back in the day, and they're not leg warmers, they are gaiters from the Spinifex. So that Spinifex is nasty stuff. And so I was in a place called, we're right in the centre of that. It used to be called Rooter River because it was a national park because the river used to flow inland. Now it's a national park, which is awesome, but disturbingly, I was looking for uranium in that national park. There's 34,000 tonnes of high-grade uranium ore ready to go there. So I come back home after exploration experience and decided to change to environmental science. So I went from one extreme to the other. So connections and networks are important. Who you meet and the opportunities they may provide. I always tell my kids, but also students, that you might meet that someone, you get a business card off, and you think, I'll keep that. But then you always encourage them to either email them and just sort of reconnect with them. And then I suppose there was an email from the CEO of this, the Academy of Science, to Sarah. Sarah is in the dome, and you'll hear from her tomorrow, I believe. And it was that connection through that, and from that initially helping look for Indigenous scientists, and then was offered to be a mentor. People call it a cruise. It wasn't. It was a research ship. It was a research ship. So, and we got to a point where there was 8 from Australia and New Zealand, and that was us in Napoli, in Italy, about to board the Joides Resolution. So it was an unbelievable experience for all of us, and there's a bit of lag. There we go. So some of the learnings from that, that those sort of experiences don't come every day, and you have to take it. I was already pre-booked for something, and I said, sorry, I'm going on a cruise. No, sorry, a research vessel. I'm going to be cruising from Napoli to Amsterdam, so out through the Mediterranean and up the North Atlantic, and to so we were supposed to go to. It was fire to ice. We were supposed to go to Greenland? Iceland. But there was volcanic activity which actually stopped us, so that was a shame. And I suppose from that experience, everyone has a story, and we all had deep listening. I always say that's why you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You've got to do double the listening. Indigenous scientists are the best, I reckon, but they won't tell you they're the best. The respect and safety was a core value for us on the ship, and yeah, Geordie's resolution had some of the coolest toys to play with as a rock person. It was unbelievable. Anyone been here on the JR? Any cruises? Oh yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Sadly, I think that ship's decommissioned now, isn't it? Yeah. And obviously, if you get seasick, go see the doctor. The doc had all the good drugs. We had a rocky day in the North Atlantic. I think 17 of the 23 were below deck. So it was a tough ride for a while. We tapped in, tapped out every day, and that's worth celebrating. And I suppose, yeah, we're still hopefully for a catch up, and somewhere central will be Hawaii, I reckon. Yeah. And so that was the crew. Actually, show and tell. Because being a rock person, you always walk away with rocks in your pants, in your pockets. Not in your pants, in your pockets, I should say. So the crew, I took a possum skin, and everyone put their mark on the possum skin, so it's there. And then there was obviously two samples. One is Vesuvicite, and the other one is the scoria from Vesuvius. So yeah, we got to cut some of them and polish them, which was awesome. I'll get a move on. Cultural values of country. Country, we know country and it knows us, and country is always watching. So I suppose everything we do is important about how we protect country and what we do to make that happen. It has a story, a spirit, a memory, and a song. We want to get to the point where we're telling our stories our way. And I think that's one of the reasons why I chose science was science could be a vehicle for me to tell stories, our stories, and I suppose tell our histories as well. And that's part of that truth-telling process because science hasn't really been nice to Aboriginal people. It's been used against us more than anything. So we're one of the most consulted and researched people around. So I suppose my definite calling maybe was to build evidence for influence. Our knowledge systems we'd like to see them as equals with the academies as we stand in the Shine Dome, and then get to a point where our elders culturally validate our knowledge. All right. This is just a general picture. So all those different language groups. It's Kamilaroi there, so you can sort of see that every mob is different. So this is at the time of colonisation. There's still some grey areas. Some languages have been lost already. Some are threatened. And so I suppose revitalisation to build in that every mob is different. We're not all the same, different languages. An example is Western Sydney. There's a place called Murrumidiga. It's about following your path. Where Muru in Kamilaroi means your bum. So it's sort of like following your bum. But it's that's the difference in languages. And Miri is another one. In Kamilaroi means bright star. There's a cousin with the name Miri, but on the south coast of New South Wales means little dog. So I suppose there's a real difference. So storytelling is central to about who we are. It's like our science communication. Our stories go in circle, not in straight lines, so you can sort of understand there's yarning circles, corroborees, concentric designs in artworks. However, our storytelling is perceived as myth and legend, tall tales, folklore, fables, mumbo jumbo. So it moves from a traditional scientific knowledge to fiction. Those thousands of generations of observation potentially mean nothing to science. But I think we're trying to shift that. These are just a couple of definitions of Aboriginal science, and I believe old knowledge can be used to inform solutions for current and future challenges. So I think there's definite opportunities. The halo around the moon, anyone know why that's significant? How many stars are in the halo means how many days till rain. Next time you see a halo, check it out. Put it to the test. Emus. So the emu in the sky, dinner one in the sky, in the dark matter of the Milky Way, the emu. So it changes throughout the season. So, June, July, or April to June, it'll change. It'll mean the male's sitting on the eggs, or it's running around chasing the women. And then there's a time when his legs disappear. That means he's on the eggs, and potentially you might be too late to collect. But at the moment, with La Nina, we've actually got emus breeding twice a year. So it's sort of, because the times are good, so the emus are back onto it. So potentially it's sort of messing with the stars at the moment. So La Nina, we've had it for a number of years now, so sort of still hanging around. Sea level rise and knowledge. There was a paper, Australasian Geographer, there was a special issue. And Nunn and Reid did a paper, looked at 21 locations, and they were looking at stories from around the end of the last ice age and the talk of sea levels rising over generations. And people are still telling those stories. So that's the observation. It definitely has changed our landscapes in modern days. This is on my country, the Guida wetlands. There's a Ramsar listed place not far from this waterhole, the Gingham waterhole. So that was October 2020, and that's my son walking across it in December 2020. So 2 months, there was no new inflows, extreme heat, and I suppose you could sort of see that, the kids were swimming in it in October, and then December they're walking across it. As I said, it's sort of old business for new opportunities, let's say. Our methods and knowledge are acquired over thousands of generations. But the potential is to look for overlaps and opportunities where the two can work together. Acceptance and cultural validation is hard to come by, definitely. The culture of science may need to evolve. Let's collaborate, celebrate, and move beyond the myth and legend of Indigenous knowledge and validate it through the academies. So I've infiltrated one of the academies, the Academy of Technological Sciences. So yeah, there's opportunities, and I suppose the Academy of Science here, there's only one Indigenous fellow. Till a couple of years ago, there was none. So I suppose those sort of things are shifting. There we go. This is a big opportunity, I suppose. The National Science Statement Priorities 2024, so 2017, the previous model, encouraged Indigenous people to do STEM like women. That was it. And so now we have our own priority, and I suppose through the statement, but then the priorities, which is important as well. The priority 3, elevating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander knowledge systems, page 7. You can sort of see, it's almost at the core of the priorities, which is a big shift, let's say. And I suppose that change from 17 to 24, we sort of see a great opportunity. Now we're hopeful that we'll find a framework coming out, and then obviously you're going to need funding to do the research. And I find if you're not part, I'm living this hell right now, if you're not part of a national science program, an ARC, you don't have an ARC grant, you're not part of those large funded, it's a closed shop. And if you're not partner to a Centre of Excellence, or you're not partner to what do they call CRC, Cooperative Research Centre, there's no money, there's no buckets. But I did see the opportunities earlier, and I think there's hope there that, I might have to get my rocks back on and maybe have a chat. I got a sneaky little quote in the priorities. So I suppose it's about building those knowledge systems, and then how can we make sure that can happen? You might know this one. AuScope's research translation strategy. I've got another little sneaky quote in there too. And a selfie. Oh no, Joe took a photo of me at the caldera of Mount Vesuvius. So that's pretty cool. But I think it's important that, you know, we are in these spaces, and it's also an opportunity. Well, the pressure's on us to make sure that we're in that space and we're taking the space as Indigenous scientists, because I think it's lonely, but you think if you can have that impact, you can make a change. Here's some cheat notes, if you want, for engagement. 3 T's I use. It's quite simple. Build trust over time over cups of tea. Those 3 T's, you heard me talk before. There's probably 4 and 5, and they're Tim Tams. It's up to you. Respect is based, you know, is at the core of that. When you're engaging, you go as, and same for the next one, integrity. You go with integrity to build respect, especially with elders. They will sit there and watch you. They will test you, and then you've got to think, what are they thinking? But they might not talk the whole meeting, but then after, you know, you go back for another cup of tea, and then it starts to build. And then there's that respect that starts to build over time, and then you build a project. Let them determine a research question, not you going there with a question that they can help you answer. That's a shift of the paradigm in research world that we're trying to push, is that, you know, you go to them to build that thing, and then, well, the other challenge is you need ethics approval to talk to them first, but you can't talk to them until you get ethics approval, and then you know what the project is until you talk to them, but you can't have that until you get ethics approval. So I suppose you got to manage that system, but then once you start getting that project, you know, accountability is important. You know, you never promise something you cannot deliver on. So that's important as well. There's just a couple of, you know, these are, you know, definitely water dependent. So if there's good water on country, these species are going to be there, and they're cultural keystone species, or, you know, the wedgetail, top of the food chain, and it's celebrated in a lot of Aboriginal cultures because of what it is. The Brolga has a very cool dance, and I suppose its dance can't happen if there's not good water on country. And that's part of my role as well, to try and influence when and where water is on country. It's pretty hard, but I think there's slow turn of government is getting there. Some other reciprocity. I think that was my word of 2023. So I suppose what's in it for them if you want to engage? What are they going to get out of this research? I had to talk to electromagnetic professionals in international conference, and, you know, I suppose they're flying their magnetometers, or, you know, over Aboriginal land, but they're not engaging with them. But then, you know, you think about what data are they gathering, and how can that influence or help those Aboriginal people understand their country better? It might be fine water, but also potentially minerals, but the opportunity to give back, you know, what's in it for them? How can they better understand their country? Indigenous-led, and, you know, projects and research, you know, look for that opportunity to have those co-leads. You know, you want to co-design, co-develop, co-deliver, co-author, what else is there? Comer, maybe. You don't want to put communities in a coma, but too much co. But you want to make sure that they start at the front and they're there at the end. You know, they're up front helping you with your research. That's the opportunities I see. And they're all the way through. And then they're part of the monitoring into the future. That was the other co-monitoring. That was the other co I was looking for. And then consent is another big one, free, prior, informed consent, which comes from the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People, is very important. If they don't know what you're doing, then I suppose sometimes you might not get that consent. And sometimes you will need consent to enter those territories. The protection of Indigenous cultural and intellectual property is sort of like it's a growing word. It's making sure that you're protecting that knowledge. And some projects I've been on recently where the funder, maybe that's not why I'm not getting funded, I don't know, but you tell the funder you might not get anything out of it because the community will hold that information. It's their knowledge, it's their influence, it's the opportunity with that new knowledge that could influence policy, but it'll be up to them to release it. So I suppose it is a challenge, but if I don't do that right, I don't work in Aboriginal affairs again. If one community says, oh, Brad Moggridge, he was giving away our knowledge left, right and centre to the Department of Agriculture or whatever, yeah, my name's Mud, and I don't know if you know, there's a thing called the Koori grapevine or Murray grapevine or Aboriginal grapevine. It works faster than the NBN. It'll be in WA in no time. So I suppose protecting is a key part, and that's built up in your research agreement at the start. Communication, think about your language you're using with these communities. I know a lot of geoscience is high tech. For water, for instance, there's a lot of acronyms that pop up. So I suppose you've got to be wary of your language, and then when you've got results from all the data collection, you might think about an opportunity to have it interpreted. Some communities, English might be a fifth language in some parts of the remote Australia. So building literacy as well is another challenge. There's a couple of resources that are out there. This was they're quite broad-ranging, that they can mean a lot. The protocols for early career researchers was done under the Threatened Species Recovery Hub, so that's a resource. Another one is Our Knowledge, Our Way in Caring for Country. So it's multi-partner, but CSIRO, I think, was the ultimate publisher. And it was a number of chapters that again gives you opportunity to have that first cup of tea. I got published in Nature, who would have thought? And it was with a couple other Indigenous scholars from around the world, and we talked about decolonising institutions. The diversity is a big thing, but I suppose, we gave them 8 steps to stop marginalisation in academia and to enable shared Indigenous agenda in science. So it was in Nature, volume 644. So I think that was quite an honour to be published, and that's the citation there. So Yane means until next time. There's no word for goodbye in Kamilaroi. And these are just some of my river selfies. And you can see my beard growing nicely there. Oh yeah, look at that. I got cut off. The bottom right one, I cut my beard off. But that's below the last hydro dam on the Waikato River. And then that's my favourite. That's a selfie at caldera of Mount Vesuvius. Thank you.
Do we have any questions, Brad? Q&A after? Yes, at the back. Yeah.
Hi, Sarah Kasevich here. Great talk as always. I was looking at the NRI roadmap survey this morning at 5 a.m. and I was looking at the workforce part, and something that's maybe reflected in potential solution I thought of is maybe something you've brought up as another challenge. Do you think, or what's your comments about potentially putting forward to NCRIS that we should try to get deliberate secondments in place for workforce improvement? So that's for industry, government, but also, more importantly, for our Indigenous engagement, that we have deliberate secondments that we can put forward.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I suppose giving people a taste of what this industry and career pathway could be. I think thinking back, like some of these kids, like myself, and when I went from year 10 to year 11, this was last century, I was advised not to do science or maths, just because of, I don't know why, but I said, no, stuff it, I love science. I'm going to try and do, and so I did geology, biology, that's all I was allowed to do, and I had to do, we used to call it maths in the garden, because we were counting bugs, it felt like. And then I get to first year uni, and I'm doing science maths, which is like equivalent, I'd never heard of calculus when I went to first year uni, never heard of it. So I suppose those kids that potentially are on that same boat, but still have that inquiry built in, that they want to ask questions about the earth or about their water or about the climate change, they have those questions. How do we move them from potentially schooling, some may drop out, or then how do we provide, or academia as well has to provide that opportunity to get to them, to build opportunities to allow them to, whether it's micro-credentials or it could be, courses on country with them, building those sort of courses. Like, I think that'd be really cool. And then as you move into the career space, secondments and opportunities for graduates or kids that are in, first or second year uni, looking at the university, the Aboriginal units within Aboriginal units within universities, and start looking at, are there any in science or any in geoscience? Are there opportunities there? But I think definite secondments are an opportunity. And then, you can sort of see those opportunities building into something that, that they could find a career in this space, yeah, definitely.
Do we have another question?
We just have a quick comment here from Sandy, just related to this.
Thanks, Bradley. I think that's where the opportunity is. So we're actually trying this at CSIRO. So hopefully in the next few months we will advertise or reach out to groups that work with Indigenous youth. And we're focusing on 17-year-olds. And they might be people that haven't finished high school, or they may have finished high school or had the same sort of experience as you. So just to give them a taste of what could come through rotations within CSIRO in minerals in particular. Yeah, right. And the reason we're doing this is because we cannot attract or get people in that have a university degree because they're snapped up by industry now, which is a fantastic story, I think, in of itself. But we think that we're losing people with potential that have a high school education but haven't been able to take it further. So that's what we're doing at CSIRO. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. I think, I suppose the media at the moment into CSIRO because of the cuts. Yes. UTS can't talk, we're cutting at the moment too. So like every university, in this space, there's downturn and challenges, and then how are you going to attract Indigenous scholars? Yeah, it's pretty tough. And like the bucket's not a big bucket. And then, as you said, sometimes industry, for us at university, it's bloody CSIRO. No, sorry. that take those, but those kids are going to find the best opportunity for them, and that's, you can't, what's the word I'm looking for?
And for our last 30 seconds, just at the back.
I love the triple T. It's better with Tim Tams too, I guess. So one of the things that you might consider in the sort of encouraging people in universities to be involved in the T parts of the project are exactly what AuScope's doing at the moment, this impact. I'm on a team right now working with an Indigenous group in Arnhem Land, and for the junior academics, it's really challenging because the T takes a long time. And we want the T to take a long time so that we have two-way listening. But for young academics, that's a problem because they're supposed to be publishing and going through that normal, traditional approach. And so the solution to that is to actually switch the framing and say, we're not actually going to have traditional academic outputs, we're going to have these non-traditional academic outputs. And they're actually written down and can be looked up. People in music, art, have non-traditional outputs all the time. And so that might be another thing to add to the list of ways to engage with Indigenous people and also advance careers of young academics, just out there as a suggestion.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I think unis have to evolve as well to obviously maintain that.
Yep.
Because it's like UTS, I'm sort of the only one in the Faculty of Science, and we've got a couple of HDRs and a couple of in undergrads in the science space, which is cool. But it's, you know, we need to build that up. But yeah, how do we, you know, dangle that gold-plated carrot to say, come study at UTS, but also how to come and work at UTS. So as someone that's qualified, you know, there's obviously opportunities for industry professors and things like that, that'll give them an opportunity to be in academia, but not have that 40-40-20 pressure of publishing and teaching. And because teachers, yeah, like teaching is hardcore. It's tough, but if you're there for the right reasons in the teaching space, you know, the students are going to get the best out. And we all know, you know, that one or couple of teachers in your career that have inspired you, and you want to be that teacher. But sometimes it's sort of hard in that space. But it's, yeah, academia definitely has to evolve. And, well, we have to evolve with cuts. We have to do probably the same with less over the next coming years, and Cyro's in the same boat, you know. So I suppose it's a challenging space, but we want to grow the Indigenous cohort. We've got 2 mathematicians actually at UTS, and 2 of the 5, which is cool. They are there learning. One is learning, you know, fresh out of a postdoc. One is learning the art of lecturing, and you know, he's published a book already, you know, things like that. And the other one is a seasoned professor, and he's come back as an industry professor, and he's a mathematician as well. So, you know, we've got that spec, but how, you know, I want to see more scientists. I don't care, male, female, or other. I don't care, yeah.
Thank you so much. How good. Yeah. I also loved the 3 T's. So, there we go. Is that going to work for us? Nope. That's what we just did. There we go. It's working. Love it. So we have Professor Anya Redding from the, she founded the Compute Earth and Compute Antarctic Research Group at the University of Tasmania in 2010, and is a faculty member in physics within the School of Natural Sciences. Group members develop multivariate and machine learning techniques in addition to studies involving geophysical modelling and inversion. Their current focus areas include the detection of changes in the major outlet glaciers of the East Antarctic ice sheets. The computational studies build on a foundation of field geophysics campaigns in challenging regions such as Antarctica and Outback Australia. And Anya is a director of the Geophysical Research Infrastructure for Antarctica facility and is an ARC Laureate Fellowship, and also as a Georgina Sweet Laureate Award recipient. Anya promotes diversity and inclusion in computational and field research. A round of applause for Anya.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. And I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Okay, so monitoring ice sheet outlet glaciers. I need to click out. This is Antarctica with no ice. So we're all geoscientists of one flavour or another. And this is what Antarctica looks like. If you take that sort of cloaking ice sheet away, of course, like every continent on Earth, you see not just a sort of flat shelf of rock, but many landscapes. So we have high mountains, the Gamburtsev Mountains, we have canyons, we have great basins. So this sort of diversity of hidden landscapes. And if we look in a little more detail at the interface between the ice sheet here and the landscapes beneath, we can see that there's a lot of detail there. There's subglacial lakes, there's sediment layers, they might be sedimentary rock layers, they might be unconsolidated sediment layers. And that's the kind of picture that we want to paint. That's what we're trying to find out about. So the ice sheets are undoubtedly changing, and the why of ice sheet change is very much the warming ocean. So it's not those dastardly penguins, it's actually the warming ocean that's sort of nibbling away at the base of ice shelves, slowly but surely sort of melting, accelerating the movement of ice. The atmosphere also plays its part. We're quite used to sort of heat waves in Australia. Heat waves in Antarctica are just on another scale. Temperatures sort of 20 degrees centigrade warmer than sort of ever previously seen. Just spectacular numbers. So if the why of ice sheet change is oceans and atmospheres, how it's going to change in the future is very much dependent on the Earth-ice interactions. So our skills, our methods of collecting data and understanding change. And the reason that we are interested in or sort of compelled to work on that kind of change is the accelerated sea level rise. So this is Sydney Harbour. This is quite a modest, medium confidence sort of projection within the lifetime of our children. We're going to have to do something different about Sydney Airport. It's gone, Bye-bye Sydney Airport in its current form. This is Jakarta. Behind this seawall lives something like a quarter of the population of Australia. So the combined effects of sea level rise, aquifer-related subsidence and tectonics really fundamentally changing the situation for the people of Jakarta and surrounding regions. So we put forward a suggestion that we should accelerate the understanding of data collection for Antarctica. So this is GRIT, Geophysical Research Infrastructure for Antarctica. Credit to Kate Selway for our great title. And this is the story behind this photo, is that we are deploying magnetotelluric instruments. We're trying to find out if that water beneath the ice exists, and if it exists, is it saline or is it fresh water? Fundamentally changes our understanding of the processes beneath the ice sheet. And the people that you can see here are Cody Manacero on the left. In her second Antarctic field season, she's stepped up to being a field leader. And on the right, Niam Askidoran, PhD student. So Cody's training Niam, so like multiple kind of generations of experience sharing their knowledge going forward. So we're aiming for instrument sets tailored to rapid deployment and light logistics. Credit to my colleague Tobias Stahl for leading the development of those. Early career and student researcher skills and field team development are very much at the heart of GRIT, and at the end, data sets as an enduring and expanding resource for the nation following fair and care principles. The instrumentation spans GNSS, seismic and magnetotelluric instrument sets, kind of state-of-the-art, but also tapping into some rapidly developing technologies, which I'll touch on at the end. So the title of the talk mentions outlight glaciers, and if we zoom a little bit into the picture of the landscape, the sub-ice landscape, we can see that a lot of Antarctica actually lies below sea level. So those white and blue colours are areas of Antarctica where the ice exists below sea level. And very key aspects of those basins are the outlets. So we can see here the Denman Glacier and the Vanderford and Totten Glacier outlets of that submarine basin. So the kind of existential threat for humanity is very much hanging on the interplay between the ocean and the ice at these outlets. So here is the Denman Glacier looking a little bit more scientific. The overlaying red colours are ice flow velocity. So you can see here the fast flowing ice coloured in red. So what we want to understand here is what's going on in this fast-moving glacial trough. In some renderings of some Antarctic topography, this is the deepest trough ever. And yeah, we basically want to understand the mass transfer of ice through that transect. Over a couple of recent field seasons, we've had the Denman Terrestrial Campaign supported by the Australian Antarctic Programme. Last season, we carried out some instrument retrieval, and the orange dots here are some longer-term monitoring, looking at glacial isostatic rebound in that location. So here are some photos from that first field season. This is the transect across the Denman. This is Shyla Cooper's PhD student Tobias in field mode, and this is what it looks like when we've deployed the instruments. So somehow lonely, there they are over the winter, recording those that precious data. Moving a little further around the Antarctic coast, further glacier system of note is the interplay between the Vanderford and Totten Glacier. Even though the Totten Glacier looks like the sort of biggest player, it looks like the Vanderford is committing an act of piracy, sort of stealing its ice, so that the flow of ice leaving the Aurora subglacial basin is increasingly down the Vanderford. So we're proposing a study of the subglacial environment between those two outlets in order to understand the change in that location. Some photos from last field season. The instrument sets that you can see have been designed to fit in the basket of a BK helicopter, so very much designed for sort of light logistics and fast access. The instrument sets have been sort of designed with the logistics in mind. And this was good news from last week. We have some colleagues retrieving instruments for us. We're retrieving data. Here we are after the Antarctic winter. The sensor's still level. It's -34. The sensor's still recording. So, like, yay. Big success, big achievement. Okay, so in terms of data analysis, David kindly mentioned in the introduction the emphasis of our group on computation. So when we are deploying these instruments, when we're recording the data, we kind of have the link between computation and data analysis firmly in mind. Glaciers are really noisy places, so you basically just record this complete nightmare of noises. Somebody with some outreach talent described it as a seismic symphony, and what we're really doing is we're sort of like decomposing the seismic symphony, separating out all those different instruments, and those different noises are telling us about all those different processes, from iceberg carving, crevassing, sliding. They all make different noises, and we can use seismic techniques to separate out those noises and eventually kind of form a kind of machine learning pattern, a machine learning enabled pattern of how those processes are active, and ultimately that gives us the tools we need to be able to monitor change over time with a reduced set of recorders. So here is some work from a current PhD student, Jared Magyar. So Jared has separated out all those noises from this part of the Totten Glacier. We're trying to understand the interplay between tide and ice movement over the Totten Glacier. And what Jared's found is that the ice is kind of hung up actually on the sort of limbs of the Totten Glacier trough. So one might think that it's sort of stuck in the bottom of the trough, but actually it's sort of sitting on the limbs of the trough. And as the tidal processes occur, so the glacier sort of slips forward. And it's a very active, quite a big tidal zone over under the ice, but over about 10 or 15 kilometres. And this is new knowledge. This is new knowledge from the seismic data. Just sort of going to be submitted probably next month. I mentioned the Denman Glacier Transect, so here's an example of some insights that have come from the magnetotelluric data. This is work by Claudia Manacero and Kate Selway, and you can see here the magnetotelluric transect across the Denman Trough. So we can see the very asymmetric tectonic controls of that glacier trough. Crystalline rocks on the west side, sedimentary rocks on the east side, and a path of saline fluids sort of tracking through the top of those sedimentary rocks. Quite an asymmetric ice flow, and actually it's not on this picture, but the ice quakes are telling us that the sort of stick and slip point is on the sort of western flank of this trough. So you basically go to Antarctica and you just see all this variety. You know, when if you look at it from afar, you just think it's all kind of white, but you get out of the aircraft and everything's different. Everything is just this immense variety, immense sort of like cacophony of processes happening. So since GRIT expanded, the sort of disruptive but kind of interesting possibility of telemetry for the seismic data has arisen from the Starlink technology. So this is Tobias testing a telemetry system out of the office window. So it's a little small on the screen there, but the word's complete success. It's like, yay. So we're prototyping that telemetry system, and field testing is scheduled for this coming Antarctic winter. The GNSS colleagues, that effort's led by Matt King. The GNSS data is routinely telemetered. It's got a lower sample rate, so we can do that over the Iridium satellite system. Just to finish then, just as a sort of a wider context, Australian Antarctic Territory is really huge. The limits of Australian Antarctic Territory are basically the distance from about Perth to Brisbane equivalent. So it's a huge kind of challenge to achieve meaningful spatial and temporal coverage across that vast area. Of course, we can do that through geophysics because of the power of geophysics to kind of aggregate information from sort of sensors in one location from a big area, array for seismology. We're interested in the Lambert-Amory system, the Damon and Shackleton and Totten-Vanderford systems that I mentioned, but also we've got our eyes on some sort of key vulnerable coasts, in particular the coast in this region, this big basin here. So very much looking to a sort of deploy instruments, understand processes, and hence be able to monitor those key locations for change. Very importantly, we do have a concern around multi-season planning. We would very much like the Australian Antarctic Programme to have enough resources to be able to plan ahead so that we don't need to go there every year, but it would be really nice to be able to plan a kind of consistent program of deployments and uplifts. And that, of course, also helps with offering training opportunities to early career researchers. If we have a little bit of a lead in time, we can do that so much better. So to summarise then, the GRIT facility is enabling glacier process discovery and change monitoring for those key outlets. The East Antarctic context is basically that it's really big, but it is a part of the globe that Australia has a territorial interest in, and it sort of behoves us to lead the science and to undertake the stewardship of information on Antarctica for those changes of global significance. So understanding those outlet glacier changes really is fundamental to being able to predict future accelerations in ice sheet response, and hence better mitigation of sea level rise impacts, relevant for Australia, but also relevant for many communities around the world. Thank you.
Here's some time for some questions. Does anybody have any questions? Hand coming up. Hand coming up. No? Yes? No? Yes? Down the front. Love it. There we go.
Thank you, Anna. That was an excellent talk. I wanted to ask about other nations that are also active in that area. What are they doing with respect to this field, and are you able to collaborate with them in Antarctica?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the nice things about Antarctic research is somehow the politics goes away. You know, when you're sitting around squashed into a field tent with colleagues from Poland or colleagues from China, everyone's there to help everyone else. There was a wonderful experience actually at working out of Davis Station quite a few years ago, where the Australian program ran out of rice and the Chinese program was a little bit short of helicopter fuel. So it's like, we can do a deal here. And a very kind thing that the Chinese program does is specifically ship south beer in order to undertake diplomatic relations with the Australian station. So if you arrive at 10 a.m. at a Chinese station, you'll be proudly presented with a can of beer, which is, really good. A little bit more seriously on the science, Antarctic science is organised through the Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research. There's an international polar year coming up in 2032, so there's some really big initiatives to connect sort of national, or coordinate international efforts. The sort of main players in this sector are France, Australia, China, India, Japan. So yeah, very much an international effort.
We have another question in the room, right down here in front of me.
Thank you. Thanks, Anya. That's amazing, the work that your team's doing. I'm curious about how far the data and the models you're producing in this work can be coupled with other Earth systems models, and sort of that data trajectory to impact going into, say, for example, underpinning coastal adaptation plans in a council around Australia, for example. How far can it go in terms of cause and effect? Like, you've got this happening here. Can you see an effect elsewhere, or could you if you coupled it? And how far could that coupling go? And could this in any way underpin adaptation planning in Australia, and on what scale? Sorry, that's like 5 questions, but
yeah,
you've got everything in there.
Thank you, Jo. I'll give you a sort of two-phase answer there. One thing that the Antarctic community can offer is it's sort of inherently interdisciplinary. I mentioned the Denman terrestrial campaign. We had over a couple of seasons around sort of 50 of us, well, probably a bit less, 40 scientists over 2 seasons, looking at moss for environment adaptation, geomorphology for ice sheet, paleo ice sheet history, all the geophysics that I've mentioned, hard rock geology, some marine biology, actually. So the Antarctic community is sort of inherently interdisciplinary, and it's very sort of a natural thing to look at fluxes and flows between one system and another, and that's what we talk about over breakfast. So there's a really nice resource of making connections in an interdisciplinary way. In terms of linking to global systems, the kind of partner NCRIS initiatives really come into play. So Access NRI, the sort of climate model, there's a couple of sort of linkage points to the global systems modelling. One of the examples is so as we better quantify the melt that is leaving the ice sheet system through the Denman Trough. So slightly random clicker. Here we go. So we can understand the input of fresh water into the marine environment there, which then goes into some quite actually fundamental changes to the ocean modelling. So kind of there's links everywhere you look, and we're really keen on progressing those links. So the umbrella funding agents, the umbrella funding initiative, ACES, that I'm involved with, has really strong connections to ocean modelling. So we just had a research forum a couple of weeks ago that was really drawing on that.
Yep, we've got one very quick question. Last 30 seconds over here. Yep, with a hand up. Stick up. Yeah, there we go. Love it.
Hi, thanks for this presentation. Sort of just a fun question. If you could do anything in the next 5 or 10 years, what geophysical, like multi-season, like what would you want to do basically for a geophysical, like doing the spatial and temporal coverage across like that whole wide region? What type of project?
That's a very exciting question. So a great way to go into morning coffee to talk about our data collection dreams. So it kind of works on two scales. I think any long-term passive seismic or deep MT sounding across the Antarctic continent, sort of in a similar way to the AusArray type instrument rollouts across the Australian continent, just has massive impact. Every time you put a station in, you find something really important. So that sort of two-scale approach, where we have a sort of a backbone of stations, especially into the interior, supporting the focused deployments on the outlet glaciers is sort of my dream. And I'd just like to thank group members and other colleagues that I'm working with, and in fact the team AuScope for their support that's really made all this happen.
Thank you so much, Anya. Yeah. Let's give her a round of applause. So, we do have morning tea right now, which is very fun and exciting, because we can all get caffeinated. Before you guys duck off for morning tea, for anything like me, you might have noticed that you won't get reception in this room. There is some Wi-Fi called Academy Guest. It doesn't even have a password. You can just click on that in case you want some connectivity while you're here over the next 2 days. So, let's go for morning tea. We'll be back at 11. Thank you so much, guys.